There's this meme that I keep seeing on social media, and it says, "Learn French. It'll be easier than to understand French people speaking English." And what is that saying? It's saying that French people, when they speak English, they're not easy to understand. Why is that? What's wrong? So a lot of people talk about the French accent. Is that the issue? Is it the French accent? Is it pronunciation? Is there a difference between pronunciation and accent? This is the question we're going to look at today, the difference between pronunciation and accent. I'm Thibaut with Pronounce.com. I'm your English fluency coach, and I'm here to help you break the language barrier. So, what's the difference between accent and pronunciation? Well, I would say that pronunciation is something that you can study in itself, and that first starts with sounds, phonemes we call them, sounds, that each have a symbol to them and a way, a technique to pronounce them, where to place the tongue, the jaw, etc., something mechanical, and a set of sounds that you assemble into syllables and then words have rhythm, so we talk about accentuation and stress, and then we talk about melody, and all of these are the mechanics of pronunciation. And you can study pronunciation, and your pronunciation can be right or it can be wrong. It's wrong if you say a sound instead of another sound, or if you say a word instead of another word. If the person you're talking to doesn't understand what you say, then we could say that your pronunciation is wrong. For example, if people confuse the A sound and the S sound, and they say pen instead of pain, then we understand the wrong thing, and therefore their pronunciation is incorrect. On the other hand, accent is all the variations of this pronunciation, the different ways to pronounce that depend on culture, on geographic location, and where people are conditions the way they say things, and it can be very specific, and it can vary a lot. English sounds very different in Scotland, in New Zealand, in the United States, or within a country, in the north, in the south, in cities, in suburbs. We have all these different variations. I saw a study recently that has all the different variations of the American English pronunciation. It was called American Accent Survey. And they had words, they had a list of words, and they compared which word was pronounced in which way in which region. And here are a few examples. The way I pronounce the word aunt, which is my uncle's wife or my mother's sister, my aunt, I pronounce it exactly like I pronounce the insect, the ant. And that's a lot of people in the United States pronounce it this way. But some people pronounce the same word aunt. They just pronounce it differently. And that's a certain percentage of the American population. Another example is I say roof, where some Americans say roof, and it depends on the region. So we might say things differently, but we still understand each other when we speak. And that's where accent comes in. Of course, some accents are so different from each other that people from the same native language could have trouble understanding each other. People from the United States can have trouble understanding people from Scotland. People from France could have trouble understanding people from Quebec. So the accents can have an impact on comprehension, but we can't say that an accent is right or wrong, correct or incorrect. It's linked to a culture, it's linked to a place, and it's part of cultural identity. When you study language, you can study pronunciation, namely the different sounds, the different rhythms, how we pronounce things in a generic way, and then in the second phase, you could look at all the variations and then focus on a certain accent depending on who you might spend time with, who you might be communicating with, what interests you. But this is a second phase. The first phase is understanding the general mechanics of pronunciation. Here's an example. The letter R, or the sound R, but this is one way I say it, R. And if you look at the phonetics, it has a certain symbol. And if you take this symbol and you listen to how it's made in England or in the United States or in Spain, or in Italy, or in France, it will be very, very different. Some countries roll their R's. Some countries pronounce them in a much softer, much deeper way. The R sound, if you will, has very, very different variations. So if somebody from a foreign country speaks English and rolls their R's, or with a French accent, instead of saying the word right, they say right, okay? It will sound foreign. People will be identified as being foreign, as not being native, but most people will still understand what they're saying. Their accent is different, but their pronunciation is there. It could be improved, but it's still understandable. If you take French people again, who tend to forget to pronounce the letter H, instead of the word happy, they might pronounce it happy. And that might be harder to understand because there's actually a sound that's missing. And this is what we consider mispronunciation. It's part of the French accent, but it's also a mistake in pronunciation, and that's where people might have trouble understanding. So really, if you're a learner, you really want to start by focusing on pronunciation, and then you can look at accent if you want to be more specific to a certain region. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions or comments, please leave comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Sounds good, doesn't it? If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our new content. If you want to make even faster progress, visit pronounce.com and learn all about the Pronounce headset, the best way to unlock your English fluency. Thank you for watching.